Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Lucas.
Welcome to the Rangers Journey.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Rangers Journal. My name is Doug, and it is the 11th of November, and I'm joined at the moment, hopefully shortly by more, but at the moment by Alan. How are you doing this evening, mate?
Yeah, good pal, yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. We should be getting joined by Marty in a wee moment. He's just getting himself sorted, and then I think Scotty will be joining us shortly as well once he's put the little ones to bed. Good evening to everyone in the comments. Let's see a few of your familiar faces there. Good to see you guys, and welcome to tonight's show. Just before we kick off, I just wanted to take a quick moment to acknowledge that obviously today is Remembrance Day, following Remembrance Sunday, with all the various displays and things. So it's a day keenly felt in the UK and by Rangers fans, and observed across the Commonwealth and indeed a number of countries across the world, as we take that time to just pause and think of all the people who've given everything in service to their and other countries, and particularly, of course, those who never came home. So just a wee shout out to all of them, and on this Remembrance Day. I was going to say Remembrance Sunday, but Remembrance Day. So quick word for them. That is a calling that requires leadership and great demands, and that's something that we're going to be touching on this evening. Obviously, if you've seen the titles on there, we're talking about the Rangers manager's job, and if it's an impossible task in some ways. So we're obviously going to touch on things like leadership and tackling challenges. Nothing quite like what they'd have faced, but in football terms, big challenges nonetheless. To set the scene, Alan, I've got a wee slide of quotes from previous Rangers managers. So obviously the type of people that know better than any of us the challenge that this job faces. And I particularly picked on managers that have won trophies with the club as well. So men that have taken up the challenge and succeeded to varying degrees. Obviously, you've had a wee look at them before the show. Is there anything in particular that you kind of take out from the words of these managers and your kind of thoughts in general on the role of being Rangers manager?
It's a hell of a difficult, demanding job anyway. I mean, you look at some of the comments for, the greatest of all, Walter Smith, two defeats away for a crisis. I mean, he's not far off, but so I mean that's what you kind of think the situation, how we've had to change manager so early this season with the way it's been going. I wouldn't necessarily say it's impossible, but it's a very hard job. No, but that's what hopefully we'll get into tonight, where you've got to look at different things where backing comes into it, things like that, a bit of stability in the club, something that we've not had in the past few years and things. So we'll obviously get into it tonight, but I think obviously when you look at Walter Smith's name stands above the rest for me in those comments, but they're all Rangers greats in their own way, I suppose. But it's certainly, it's changed days. I mean, when I grew up, I was used to Rangers managers being in charge for 5-6 years and stability in the club, and then they would then move on and things like that. But whereas now it's sometimes with jobs now, it seems to be like a kind of revolving door at times to try and get the right man.
Absolutely. Neil Marty, how are you getting on? Can you hear me? Maybe not quite hearing me. Hold on. Take you off. Put you back on. You hearing me now, Marty?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. How are you getting on this evening, mate?
Fine, thank you. Sorry for being late.
That's fine. I'm sure the chat will forgive you. Don't forgive him. And they will say nothing but nice things all evening. We've just started getting started there. I've pulled up the first of our slides here, just with a selection of quotes from previous managers about the manager's job. So I'm just reflecting with Alan there and just ask the same question to yourself. Is there anything in particular you kind of take from these quotes about the role, and do you have thoughts about the difficulty of being a Rangers manager yourself?
I think it's a case of certain managers, especially managers that come up from England, have this preconception that the Scottish League is going to be easy, and they're quite quick to find out that it's not just a stroll in the park like they expected. And obviously, as you can see from the comments, they soon quickly realise that it's not just an average job; it's a must-win job, and there's very few jobs that you can actually take in football across the footballing world where it's a must-win every game. So I think that's a bit of a shock for people when they come in, and obviously when they soon realise that, and obviously, like Russell, obviously had problems with that because it then gets the fans' backs up when they're not winning, and when you've got a manager that doesn't seem interested. So obviously you've given good examples there, like Walter Smith, Dick Advocaat, Alex McLeish, Ali McCoist. They all know what it takes to win. Gerrard as well. They all know what it takes to win. So when you've got somebody that knows what it takes to win, then they know the mentality of you must win. But when you've got guys like Russell that come in who've not won a thing in their professional career as a player or a manager, it's a little bit of a shock to them. And I think that's something that the new Rangers ownership needs to highlight to managers in the interview stage, that it's not just a average job, it's a must-win job, and you have to realise that quite quickly.
Absolutely. Alan, Marty touched on the fact there that the Rangers job is a must-win job, sort of quote unquote, where the pressure is there to win week in, week out, and obviously to end the season with not just one but multiple trophies, if possible. There's that, obviously, the classic saying, big fish in a small pond, which sort of applies to ourselves and obviously our friends across the road, where we're a club that looks to operate and have fans that have the demands of a Real Madrid or a Barcelona, a Bayern Munich, a Manchester City, a Manchester United, mega football clubs. We are in that kind of mold, but obviously in a league that is not that does not match. Do you think that it's that combination that sort of throws managers off, the way that Marty kind of points out there, that they're too busy looking at, it's just Scotland, I'll pop up there, fix my reputation or whatever it might be, or get my next big job, because they're kind of thinking of that, and they know we're bigger clubs, but they don't really appreciate the fact that you're moving to a Real Madrid level, do perfect or be hated.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any getting away from that. I think when you hear it from managers and players when they come to Rangers, that one of the main things they sometimes say is they don't realise how big it is until they're actually here. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think that should ever change. My worry when we started going down the divisions and coming up, that you had a generation of fans growing up that don't remember. Lucky enough, some of us been growing up in the 90s and things, and seen us all winning all these trophies and things like that. And I don't think we should ever take that away, that this is a club that you've got to come into and you've got to win. I think that's the way it should always be. I think it's a bit of, when you're looking at managers, say for example, what down south and things like that, there is the snobbery that comes into it with Scottish football, that when you listen to radio stations like Talk Sport, 5 Live and things like that, it is just like, it's the Mickey Mouse League, it's all these comments and things like that, and they expect to just come up here and think, well, do you know what, we'll get up here and get, and it's not like that. It's like they don't realise that when all these smaller clubs come to play Rangers, and as you said, the other team in the city, it's cup finals for them. This is a chance for these players maybe put them in shop windows, things like that, they've never been in before. Like, these are, as much as they're must-win games, it's not easy games, and you've seen players come up here and fail. You've seen managers come up here and fail. I don't think it's a thing that should ever change for Rangers. I think we should always be looking at that, and as Marty says, when the new owners, I think they've maybe came into it slightly naive, not looking at it, the big picture and realising that, and I think that's maybe where the appointment of Russell Martin went so badly wrong. I think you've got to look at people coming into your club that have done something in the game. Now, I'm not unrealistic to say that we're not going to attract the top tier managers. Now, unfortunately, the way the world is for Scottish football, they're not going to come to Scotland, but we should still be looking at managers that have got a pedigree in the game and get a track record of winning things and achieving things, because that's the type of club we are and should always be.
Absolutely. You just Scotty, thanks for joining us this evening. How are you getting on?
Aye, not bad, Doug. Evening, Bells. How are you getting on? All right?
Yes, not too bad. I'll just bring our slide back up here that we were touching on at the beginning. Just a selection of quotes from Rangers managers past. All managers that have won something with the football club, be that leagues, cups, or combinations thereof. The sort of opening salvo I gave to the guys there was, if there's anything particular that they kind of pull from these quotes, or just as an opening, your general kind of thoughts on the difficulty that is being the Rangers manager.
Aye, 100%. I can't agree with you anymore, Doug. Some of these quotes are quite inspirational, actually, when you look back at it. Matt Warburton, the line, if I says I was prepared for scrutiny at Rangers, that kind of sums up the job, really, doesn't it? When you look at it for the outside looking in anyway, I'd imagine when you're in it, it's going to be 10 times bigger than what anybody could predict it to be. But going on to the current manager, I think Danny Rose went in and he's understood it quite quickly. He's understood this league. He's understood what's expected of him. And I feel as if we're finally, and say fans, Derek Clark was quite interesting last night because he says Rangers stumbled across a good manager. And I probably agree with that, to be honest with you. Had Danny Rose got a job at the beginning of the season, God knows where we would be. We'd probably be running away with this league right now. But we are. And he's only in for the first 6 matches, but already you're seeing improvements on the structure off the ball. What he'd done on Sunday after Dundee, I'm all for that. He's trying to build a synergy with the club and the fans. People like Chris Boyd can criticise all they want. If you ask me, he's only getting the fans a bit of a fist pump and getting something back. You know what I mean? He's trying to get his up for it. I actually thought the atmosphere on Sunday was almost a bit timid, to be honest. I thought it had that kind of end of season feel to it a wee bit, Doug. And I don't know why, but I was on Hands Across the Water last night. If anybody's looking for another pod, head on over and check them boys out. They're outstanding. And I was saying to them that it's just going to be like that for the next couple of months while we're grinding out victories. And if the next victory comes against Livy and Falkirk at home, get them 6 points on the board, and then we go for there.
Absolutely. I think that's a real perfect phrase to that we sort of, after that those 2 weeks that we stumbled upon our manager, it really does kind of feel like that after the way things went. And I think the point you make there actually is a really good starting point for the discussion, talking about obviously Danny Rule. For anyone who doesn't know or didn't see it, although I'm sure you all did, he obviously was sort of cheering with the fans at the end of the game. Something he's done a couple of times in terms of going over to the fans, but this time he made a big deal of sort of cheering and geeing them up, and as Scotty said, they're building that relationship. Something that's very common in German football. So German football, the fans are exceptionally important. They've obviously got the 50+1 rule there, which means fan ownership is not a dream but a fact of life, and that relationship between fans, management, and club is an incredibly important thing. And I think, he's bringing that with us. It was something you saw with Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool as well. He did that type of thing with the Liverpool fans a lot. Marty, if I come to you on that point, I think it kind of highlights a little bit when you see people like Chris Boyd and certain others sort of criticising it. I think it brings up one of the first sort of clashes of kind of culture, I suppose, that we find ourselves in because of the position that we're in right now. In terms of obviously we're having to come back from having gone down the leagues and come back up. We're now established and back in obviously the Premiership, but we're still struggling to kind of regain that position that we once had in terms of consistent winning, and I think moments like this highlight that point of the desire to act like the club and sort of continue to act like the club that we once were, combined with perhaps making slight concessions that recognise where we are in relation to that returning journey. And I think this is one of those ones where, yeah, maybe if we were still all conquering, winning everything, maybe it would be fine to say, oh, you don't need all that jazz and gene up fans and things like that. But perhaps it's one of those things where we kind of need to recognise where we are, particularly obviously with all that's going on this season as well and the damage to the relationship, that actually we know those things are important and we should do those things because they're important to the position that we're in right now.
Well, I agree that it's, although there's obviously a lot of time passed from where we were before to where we are now, I do still agree that it's an integral part of the club. It's always been part of the club. And regardless of what the times are these days, it showed the fans the respect, wearing the suit and going over to the fans and thanking them for being there. Even if you're only going over to apologise for not getting the result, you're actually making an effort to engage with the fans. And I think that was one of a major fault for Russell, that he was, the first thing he done was turn and go down the tunnel. He was never interested in, no matter how far you go back, you can always image Rangers managers in their suit. If it's no suit, it's a Rangers tracksuit. And that's, although it seems trivial, but it's an important part because it shows you respect the heritage of the club. It shows you respect the club itself. And if you're not interested in doing any of that, then you've not got a real interest in the job. You see it as a stepping stone. And if that's how you see it, then you're at the wrong place.
Yeah. And what's your kind of thoughts on that, Alan? The way that Rowe's sort of been building his relationship with the fans, and does that for you truck with being the Rangers manager?
Yeah, I've been really happy with him. I'm wishing you came with me first instead of with Marty, because I'm just going to be copying exactly what Marty said there near enough. The fact that he's come on and it's trivial to some people, but see just the brogues and the suit, things like that, you automatically right, he looks a Rangers manager. Like that's what we recognise as a Rangers manager. I usually like Chris Boyd and things like that, but I thought his comments about the way he was behaving, the way he was geeing up the fans at the end of the game, I don't know where he was coming from with that. I really enjoyed it. I can't really, probably maybe back to really Gerrard the last time we had a manager that kind of interact really like the fans with that. Gio was quite kind of laid back. As I said, I think Russell Martin came out at the Panathinaikos game at the end on the pitch, and then after that you never seen him. He was right up the tunnel. Obviously maybe the songs that was getting sung about, we maybe didn't like him on the pitch, but like the fact with just him coming out and saying, I mean, he was all for sound bites saying how the fans will be there after he's like long after he's away and things like that, and they're the ones that are always here. But then he didn't ever seem to kind of engage with them in any way or anything. There was never you feel like a kind of proper relationship with them. Whereas Rose came in, he's hardly had any time in the training pitch at all. It's been game to game. He's a few positive results. The fans are singing the Danny Rose song almost all game. He's went over, acknowledged them, and like you say, remember Klopp doing that at Liverpool every single game, home at West Brom and everything. He's over there with fans. See if you have that togetherness, that's what will get the Rangers fans behind you, and obviously the improvement on the park. I think Rose handled himself really well since he's come in. I like everything he said. I like that he's quite adaptable in his tactics and changes and things like that. And the way that he's went about it and everything, the way he speaks, I've been quite impressed.
Absolutely good stuff. I agree. I think I think it's really good to be building those bridges, particularly after obviously how fractured things were under Russell Martin, and to see, I mean, I feel like about 90% of the match against Dundee were just fans singing Danny Röhl's name, and that really, I think, shows the turnaround that he's managed to get, because there was still a significant amount of people that I saw when he was coming in that were just saying Russell Martin 2.0. And I'm not really seeing that from very many now, which I think is a real positive, and really goes to show how the different approaches can really have a big effect. Because, as I say, Russell Martin just really got fans' backs up from the beginning, whereas Danny Röhl has been the complete opposite of that. Okay, Scott, I'm going to bring you in on our second slide tonight, which is sort of looking at a couple of the big things that I think are conflicting demands at the club. There's a few things there, that I think are sort of classic things that cause difficulty for a Rangers manager. So winning immediately versus building for the future, spending big on quality players versus being financially prudent and obviously avoiding the mistakes of the past, playing youth against invested in experience, the importance of the traditional identity against sort of being a global and modern club, and then the sort of the demands of passion against being professional and showing composure. So I put a little made up fan quote to sort of represent each one. I'll let you just sort of pick anyone you like to speak on, and we'll have a wee chat around it. And then, guys in the chat, I'm going to give you the chance to vote then on which you think is the most important for you of the two things. So, Scotty, what one would you like to open us with?
That's a good question, actually. Probably traditional identity and global ambition. So fan A, we should preserve the Rangers' identity, a Scottish spine, tradition and values. Fan B, we should be competing in Europe with confidential quality and modern ideas. Should be doing both, realistically. You can do both. It's doable. It's not hard. But fan A's got to come first. We must preserve the Rangers' identity, a Scottish spine, tradition and values. That's something we've not seen at our club in a good 10-15 years. So I would probably pick apart that one first, Doug.
Okay, look, you talked about obviously doing both. How do you think we best sort of mold those things together and combine the goals to come out at something that works on the other side?
Well, it's quite obvious. You just get to win in team on the park first, and you get winning domestically. And the day at Rangers have always had a strong Scottish spine. So, and then the rest of it comes laterally, comes second. You get your strong Scottish spine or British spine, and then you fill it with, I don't know, Japanese players, Australian players, with different markets, as long as these players are good enough. And Nicky's come in and just said better recruitment. That's exactly spot on. If we're going to get down that route in terms of global ambition, there's a lot of good markets out there. But in order to do that, you need to get players that are good enough for it. Take Man U, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, for example. Look at the pre-season tours they do every year. It's not even a pre-season. It's just it's glorified friendlies, really. I think in order to do that, that's one way you can kind of start plugging that gap.
Absolutely. Alan, I've got a comment here that says the Scottish spine is essential, not a conflict. It installs the needed heart. We've got a few Scottish players in the squad at the moment. Not all of them getting picked regularly, though. Obviously, you've got players like Connor Barron, John Suter, and Lau Cameron in amongst there. And obviously, we've had significant Scottish players in the past. More recently, though, I think most of the Scottish recruits have tended to fall into that not always getting picked sort of line, and maybe have been seen as more there, maybe just for like European rotas or whatever, something like a Scott Wright, say. And we've been unlucky with some, like for example Jack, who was a great player but just injured a lot. What's your thoughts on the idea of the Scottish spine, and is it something that we've kind of lost in recent years and that we need to focus more on, or as and as an addendum to that, does it have to be a Scottish spine, or is a British spine an acceptable thing, including, say, for example, players like James Tavernier and Jack Butland?
In an ideal world, you're probably one Scottish, but I mean, you look back at some successful teams, like we have had a core of like a British spine, just going back to Gerrard, like you said, Tav, fling in Goldson, Jack, Arfield, people, I know Arfield plays for Canada, but you know what I mean, and like, he's still kind of like homegrown. Like, it's, in an ideal world, but only if they've got the quality to get us to where we're wanting to go. It's, I find myself being one of these fans that contradicts myself something awful. Like a few weeks ago, we were having a go at why is Mikey Moore getting a game ahead of our own growing Finlay Curtis. Yeah, since Rolls came in, the difference in Mikey Moore has been massive, and he's probably one of the first names in the team sheet now. So you're kind of developing a Tottenham young player instead of your own. But you've got to look at getting wins on the park. Ideally, I would love a Scottish spine. I think we missed out. We're not going for the likes of Shankland, missed out for not going for the likes of Lewis Ferguson, players like that when they were available, and we could have got them. But only if they've got the quality to take us where we need to get to. I don't necessarily think the Scottish spine is a must if they don't have the ability to get us there. But that's where then obviously you can then start getting into the discussion about recruitment and things like that. As Scotty was saying, that there's all these different markets all around about the place. If you recruit right and things like that, then obviously you can build your team into obviously being better and competing that way. So in an ideal world, yes, Scottish spine, British spine, whatever you want to call it, but only if they are good enough to take us to the level that we want to get to.
Absolutely. Marty, I've got a comment here from Pat Bear 66. If I was a young Scottish player, I would avoid Rangers as it's a guaranteed career killer. Obviously, he's kind of touching on the point that we've got players that have maybe been here for a while that have never really perhaps gotten a chance, or they've gotten a chance and then sort of disappeared afterwards. So I'm kind of thinking players like Leon King, players like Ross McCausland, like Bailey Rice, and obviously the sort of hot topic right now, and Curtis as well. Do you think we do enough in terms of supporting these younger players to be the biggest success they can? Do you agree that, you know, if we use McCausland as the sort of most recent example, who's kind of had a proper chance and I think is obviously being deemed surplus to requirements, did he get a good enough chance, or is it a case of you just have to, once you're there, it's sink or swim like any other player?
I think he has had a chance, but at the same time, you also have to think there's players that have been in and around the Rangers squad for years and they seem to spend more time on loan than they do actually playing for Rangers. So again, it comes back to the point that was made earlier about the recruitment. The recruitment has been dire. And if the recruitment is dire, I can't understand why some of these younger Scottish lads are not being given the opportunity. Because let's be honest, you can't be any worse than what's been on the pitch over the last few years. Some of the players that we have had playing for us have been rank rotten. There's no two ways about it. But when you've got players that... I think the problem that you have now is when you've got players that are brought up through the youth teams and into the first squad. The biggest example I could probably think of is Gilmore. They get turned for money. And I think that's unfortunately a way of the times now. It's money motivated. It doesn't matter how much their heart's at the club. If they're offered stupid money to go to another club, they'll go. And I think that's rather unfortunate because when you go back to times like Barry Ferguson, Neil McCann, there was a lot of Scottish players in and around the first team. And it just seems to have dwindled as the years have gone on. And obviously, dropping down the leagues and coming back up was another opportunity, but we didn't have the quality in the youth then. So we're damned if we do, damned if we don't, unfortunately.
Yeah, certainly an element of that in there as well. Guys in chat, I'm going to throw a wee poll in for that first topic, tradition versus modern, which is the most important to you. So do you have a vote on that? And we'll come back to that in a wee moment. Scotty, we've kind of, I think as we've been talking, we've sort of merged into one of the second points there, which is playing the youth against investing in experience. So we've kind of touched on youth players there. If you want to add anything to that point, then please do. But what I was going to ask you is, the importance of recruitment, which I think it was Nikki mentioned in her comment. I think when we talk a lot about the Scottish spine, I think you can find players that can have the same effect that people are looking for when they talk about that idea of a Scottish spine. When they come and they really take to the club and their heart really, becomes entangled with the club, and you get that same sort of fighter that I think is what people are looking for, that kind of passion. I think of players like a Nacho Novo or a Dado Perso who, they really had the passion for the club and they fought and they battled in addition to being great players. And that's really that's obviously the gold mine, is to find the player that has the passion and the skill. How badly have we lost that in recent times, and do we need to find that? And I suppose the obvious question that leads to is, do you think we've got the people on the board right now to do it?
Right, I'll answer the first part about youth first, and then you might need to remind me about the second part, right? So, if in terms of the first part, in terms of the youth, I don't think there's any youth good enough in at the club just now to come into the team and make an instant impact. To be good enough to make a breakthrough at Rangers, you need to be Nathan Patterson level, you need to be Barry Ferguson level, you need to, in order to have any of that sort of impact. We've spoken about Bailey Rice on this pod to my blue in the face, so I don't really want to delve back into it, but he's another example of a player that's had a chance to come through and it's not really worked, to be honest with you. Nicky's asked, I think it's down to coaching. There's a lot of things about it, Nicky. There's a lot of elements to it that just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think Rangers have got the youth system figured out at all. And would it be a bad idea to scrap it? Let's be honest about it, because, apart from association trained players, we're not really up to much. In terms of your recruitment, in terms of signing players with a bit of passion in that, Zoltan Gogic is over at St Mirren. We touched on him last week. That's a prime example of a player that will come in and show a bit of passion, throw his body on the line. And then you buy one or two of these guys for the league for your squad, and then you kind of pad it out with everything else that you're trying to do. Do I trusted people on the board? I don't know. I don't think so, no. I definitely don't trust Kevin Thelwell and stuff. I do believe that they will go into other markets now. But it's too little, too late, because the recruitment in the summer's just been far too rotten for us, to be honest with you, Doug. There's not been good enough. At least Othello Asgard and stuff says it. I'm repeating myself here, but I says it in the pod last night that he's not good enough. He's not shown anything so far. Mikey Moore's finally come in and done some, but he's a lone player. Nasser Jiga, Mintz, Migoma's okay. So there's some passes there. Gassama's definitely a pass. Ganelis is definitely a pass. But apart from that, who can you put your hand on and say that was a great signing? You know what I mean? There's not really anybody that's come in and took Rangers by storm. But team's not even creating any chances for Bojan Majowski. I felt really sorry for Majowski on Sunday because he wasn't getting any chances created for him. We're not playing to his strengths at all. And that's even with two up top. His performances probably haven't been good enough, but there's an awful lot wrong with your style and in an attacking sense that needs fixed out and it needs ironed out. But hopefully we just keep churning out wins, and all that will kind of come eventually.
Ideally, indeed. Okay, I'm going to put a question in or a poll in the chat for you guys here about youth. Let's say I can guarantee that Finlay Curtis, Bailey Rice, who else is there? Hutton, McCallion, that these players can all become top quality players, like able to play in a top 5 league. So the question I'm going to put to you is would you sacrifice a title to bring those players through by playing them and getting them through all of their tough periods and to that point? Would you do that to see them through and into the team if you knew that it was either guaranteed title or guaranteed bring through these players? So that's the question for you in there. So I'll put that up for a minute or two. Alan, I'll bring you back in here. We've got sort of 3 other topics there. The win immediately versus build for the future, spend vig versus being financially prudent, and demand passion versus expect professional composure. Would you like to come in on one of those with a starter for us?
The one that sticks out for me is probably the spend big or be financially prudent. And to me, that's more looking, as Scott was touching on again there, the recruitment side of it. I don't think that. I think you can be both. You can spend big and be financially prudent if you've got your recruitment right. I don't want to make him the whipping boy, but £8 million on, say for example, Chermiti, right? Now, we all hope, when we're all Rangers fans, we all hope to God the boy comes good, right? And on a side note, I would persist with him the now, because at least I feel he's getting chances, whereas Miovski's not offering anything. But £8 million on a player like that, to me, if you've got your recruitment right and you're looking in various different markets and things like that, I think you could pick up a striker that would possibly guarantee you goals more than what Chermiti would for half the price. You're then not spending big, and you're also thinking, right, we've got then a chance of making money on a player like that. And that's how I don't get a lot of our transfer dealings this year with the amount of loans that we've brought in. If we want to use this player trading model and things like that, surely we should have been looking at trying to bring in players that we can then sell on. Whereas even if this transfer window, right, was a success, come next summer, we've got to rebuild again of a whole new defence. Like, I think you can spend big and be financially prudent if you've got the recruitment right and you're tapping into all these different markets in Europe that you can, but spend a few million here and there on key players, and it's players that you would then be looking to make money on. I don't see it. Yes, it is conflicting, but I think you can be both in that situation. Like Ant-Man, I think was a no-brainer of a buy. It's not really worked out, but if Ant-Man then starts performing, you could be looking at money in Ant-Man, and that was happening in the Dutch market. Something different as opposed to just going to the Championship where it's overinflated. £8 million's a drop in the ocean to clubs down in England. That's a punt. We're not in a position where we can make an £8 million punt. That's not being financially prudent. That's just being bloody stupid, if you ask me, more than anything. Like, if we were looking at then, like, you tapping into other markets, whereas, because, as I say, it's about England, everything that's inflated down there, see, they're not, if you're looking at a player that cost £8 million, but he's not performing and things like that, it's just like, we'll loan him in the Championship, we'll loan him in League One, or we'll loan him in Scotland. Something like that. That's not a loss to them. We don't have anywhere to go with that, and we're never going to be able to then sell back to that market to make money on. They've come up here for a reason, and that's because they're not cutting it down there. Whereas if we go to Europe, look where we picked up Morelos from, bloody Finland. We should have made millions on Morelos, and stupidly didn't. But there's players out there. So you can spend big in certain key areas, I get it. But it's all down to your recruitment with that one. I think you can afford to be both. You can be financially prudent and spend big if you know what your end game is.
Absolutely, Marty. Alan touches on the balance to be struck there. What's your thoughts on? Obviously, one of the reasons I included this example is it's a talking point right now around obviously Chermiti. For you, is the figure in and of itself just a no, that's something we should be avoiding, full stop right now, or is it specifically that it's 8 million on such an unproved, untested player? Had we, I can't really think of anyone that's probably near 8 million right now. But say for someone like a Jay Stansfield at Birmingham City, he's probably not too far away from 10 million. He got about 15 or so goals, I think, last season, a handful of assists in the Championship. So, someone that has a bit of a better goal scoring record. If we bought someone in that kind of mold, would you have been more okay with it, or do you just not think we should be hitting those prices quite yet?
We have to be honest here. If it wasn't for Thirlwell, he wouldn't have been anywhere near Rangers, and we certainly wouldn't have spent 8 million on him. And for a guy that hadn't scored in a year and a half, you don't spend 8 million. You just don't. Doesn't matter what qualities they bring or what future they've got. If a striker can't score in a year and a half, he shouldn't be anywhere near our club. And I'm sticking to what I've said. If it wasn't for Thirlwell, he wouldn't be here. And fine well, that's because of the link with Everton that he's gone, oh, I fancy bringing him. But nah, it's just... I do kind of feel sorry for the lad, but at the same time, if you've got that label of you're that amount of money, and it's the same when the money was spent for Everton to bring him there, if you've got that money, you need to be producing, and he's just not producing. And it doesn't matter what you do. You can't make a guy produce goals if he's not capable of it. And any other market, like what was said, any other market out there, he wouldn't be worth 8 million. But because it's England, because it's Everton, and because of the Thirlwell link, there's been, we'll throw money at him. And it's just... And if you look at the other recruits, to me, that's probably why we've got such a loaned defence, because we've spent 8 million on him. And we've got to look at the FFP, because if we breach that, we're in trouble. So we unfortunately have to be realistic with this. And at this moment in time, I think we're going to have this now for a good 6 months, maybe another year, because we've got to balance that FFP, and it's not going to be easy. And I think that's probably the reason for all the other loaned players, because obviously we can then write that off as such. But realistically, we shouldn't be spending 8 million on a forward unless they can actually have a track record of proven goal scoring, and that's just something Chermiti doesn't have.
Absolutely, and we'll just have to cross our fingers that comes good. Billy is in the chat agreeing with you, Marty, 100% right. Okay, guys, I've got a poll question for you on that one. There are middle grounds to some of these questions, but I'm deliberately not including them because I want to force an answer one way or the other, so that we've not just got hedging our bets. So if you're looking for the middle answers, I'm sorry. So this one is: spend big on proven players or always look for bargains to grow. So give us your thoughts on that one in the poll there. Okay, I'm going to start off the next one myself, because there's a point on this that ground my gears at the time that I want to get out, and that's the bottom one here about demanding passion and expecting professional composure. And the point that upset me particularly was after I think it was I forget which of the cup ties it was, but after the Celtic game where we were absolutely all over Celtic, who played an absolutely brilliant game, but unfortunately didn't get the result. And you saw footage of the players upset afterwards because they put so much into this match that it obviously at the end had just gotten too much, overwhelmed some of them. And a lot of the players got a lot of criticism for that, and told that there was this idea that they shouldn't show that emotion when they're on the pitch. And I disagree with that on two sort of levels. Just one, the idea of having to hide emotions in general, which I think is damaging, particularly amongst men. But on the sporting level, though, we have this thing where we do demand the fire and the passion off of players. We want them to be putting in the effort, to give them all for the club and for the jersey. And I feel like it's hypocritical to make that demand of the players, and then to go and criticize them when they show, when they actually do show that type of emotion, although it's not necessarily the same emotion. And I don't know whether that came from just the fact that we'd lost the game or what side of it was, but I personally, as I say, felt that was a bit hypocritical for, as I say, for fans to be saying and criticizing the players for that. If I come down to yourself, Scotty, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know, Doug. It's a very good question, to be honest with you. Can you word it in a different way for me? Start my answer off.
Well, I mean, what do you think? Do you think that if a player's upset at the end, having lost a match, and he feels like he's about to burst into tears, should he be running down the tunnel so that nobody sees him, or is it just fine?
It depends on what it is, to be honest with you. If a player's greeting at the end of a cup final, or that we get beat, or if a player's greeting because they get a bad injury, then I can't actually see anybody greeting because they get taken off or something. I don't mind players showing a wee bit of emotion when they get subbed. If they go and kick a chair or something, or handle it, do you know what I mean? That's completely different. That does show the care. So I've not really got any qualms about anything like that. It sets an example that they care, and it shows they're developing as a person as well within a club, because once they've done that, the manager will come out and say at the end in the presser he doesn't mind it, and then you really don't see it again after that, to be honest with you. I think it's more, these things are more a kind of a one-off that tend to happen within football, and it happens all over the place. I've got no qualms when any player showing emotion.
Absolutely. What about yourself, Alan?
Nah, it doesn't really bother me either. I mean, I remember back to the cup final we played Celtic. I think the things when Morelos missed the penalty, we absolutely battered them, but we lost with the offside goal. And I think I remember there was a picture going about of Ryan Jack visibly upset, and I think he was getting consoled off of Gerrard at the end. And you're not going to tell me that Ryan Jack didn't have the fire or emotion or anything like that to play for Rangers. Like, to me, it shows this. I mean, they could be upset for various reasons. Are they upset because they've dominated Celtic with 10 men for most of the game, but not got the result in a semi-final? They're young boys. We've got a team full of young boys who've never maybe played a semi-final before at the National Stadium, things like that. It doesn't really bother me as such. I would rather they showed that than just walking off being pally with your rivals and things like that. That's what I don't want to see. I would rather them being a wee bit upset and showing that they care. No, because us in the crowd certainly care. And I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I mean, there's ways to show it. It's the same argument with what's brave on a football pitch, isn't it? Like, is it brave kicking a player up and down the park, or is it brave, like Barry Ferguson used to say, like demanding the ball in the middle of the pitch and wanting to do something with it? Like, that's, isn't it? It's the same kind of thing. It doesn't bother me as such if players show a bit of emotion at all. I would rather they showed emotion and showed that they actually cared about the jersey they were wearing and the team they were representing, more than, like I said, just walking up the park and just any other game to them. You know what I mean? I'm getting paid anyway. That kind of attitude. Like, if obviously I'd rather it be tears of happiness if I was winning and getting into a final and stuff like that than obviously it's getting knocked out. But nah, it doesn't really bother me at all, to be honest.
Okay, and just before I come to Marty on that same point, I'll put the poll in on that question as well. So, is it okay to show emotions, or should they take it down the tunnel? You've got the two options there. Marty, what's your thoughts?
I think you need a little bit of both, but on the pitch, you expect the emotion, you expect them to play for their shirt, you expect them to play for the club. So with that, you'd expect the emotion to come with it. But obviously, it's a wee bit different. When you're off the pitch, you expect them to be a little bit more respectful and calm. You don't want them going after their nut just because they're annoyed. So you've got to have a bit of both. But on the pitch, certainly, I don't mind a bit of emotion because at least it shows they've got a bit of pride about who they're playing for and that they actually want to perform. Because I've seen too many guys over the years that have just wandered off the pitch, don't really care. I'm not really that bothered about whether they perform or no, because they don't see Rangers as their end goal. It's just another stepping stone for them. So they don't have the pride that comes with the club. So I certainly agree with the guys that if they're emotional on the pitch, then I'm quite happy with that, because obviously us fans have shown it this season already that we're quite happy to show our emotions, whether that's positive or negative. I mean, we've had both so far with the two managers. So I certainly don't mind a bit of emotion and passion involved in playing the game.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And like you say, we really saw both sides of that coin in our recent two managers. I love nothing more than seeing a manager animated and in the game and within the 90 minutes. And then, like I say, once the 90 minutes is done, that's when you want them to become a bit more calm and reflective and things like that. But we've covered a good few topics there and moved sort of both within and out with what will be part of the manager's purview. I'll stick with you, Marty, to go back around on sort of this final summation section where not just sort of managers in general, but specifically, obviously, Danny Röhl, who's our current manager. Where do you think are the key points that we've discussed tonight that he can make a difference in, and how do you think? Which would you say is the most difficult from his point of view in terms of trying to push things forward? Is it the recruitment side and working with other people within the hierarchy? Is it trying to bring through youth within the challenging environment of a club that demands to win, or something else that we've touched on, or indeed anything else that we've maybe not touched on?
I don't think there's going to be any youth showing good enough performances for the team this season. It's just not realistic. I mean, with the exception of possibly Curtis, there's not really anything there. Recruitment, I can see being a bit of a problem for him, because I know if you go from our previous managers, they always like to have an input on who they're bringing in, and I don't think Thelwell's that kind of guy. I think he has his finger in too many pies, and he wants to have his say more than anybody else. I mean, I don't think Russell would have pictured Meaty for a start, even though Russell has a bit of an up to himself. But I think it's a case of he's going to have to deal best as he can with the board and the relevant people for the recruitment, and obviously make sure that he's highlighted in the strongest possible way the positions he feels we need recruiting the most. Me personally, you'd probably look at left back straight away, because we only have one registered left back. We probably need a goal scorer as well, because we've currently not got one that's cutting mustard. So there's obviously issues that Danny will look at and go, right, well, this is what we need. And we just need the agreement from those in power to actually stick to that. As for the rest of the things, it's a case of he knows the job best. He's the one that's in the changing rooms. He's the one that's got to motivate the guys. And you can quite clearly see at the end, or getting towards the end with Russell, that none of the guys wanted to play for him. None of them were motivated. You could see it in their face, their demeanour on the pitch. They didn't want to know. And there's certainly been somewhat of a change since Danny's come in, and hopefully he keeps that going and builds upon it, and the guys can build a wee bit more confidence and go and push some of these teams that we've not really been pushing so far.
Absolutely. And what about yourself, Alan?
Yeah, just what Marty said there, really. I think one of the big stumbling blocks is going to become recruitment in January. I think if we can... The good thing about this international break, as much as I don't like them, that it's probably given Rawls first chance on real training pitch to try and get some ideas really into them, how he wants to play, because it's really just been going game for game to game, really, since he's came in. He's not really had a chance to really try and implement his ideas, despite, as we've all said, changes that we have seen with them. So I'd like to think when you come back for the Livingston game, we might see some more. As Marty says, with the recruitment in the summer there, I think come January it's going to be very interesting. You don't know for definite, but I would be expecting Rolly maybe have a wee look at maybe like the German market, things like that. It'll be interesting to see how much say he's got in players coming in. I would like a left back. I still would like a proper number 10. I really don't think we're playing with a proper number 10. I don't see what Asgard brings to the team at all. And dare I say it, a striker. If we can get wins in the board between now and Christmas, keep in touch, get into the Old Firm game in the new year and things and that, then, you know what I mean, like, if Hearts dropping points now and stuff like that, I'm not saying anything ridiculous that we'll still come back and win the league and things like that, but I don't think we're as far out of it as what we're sitting now. So January is going to be really, really important, and we know that it's a difficult window at the best of times to try and get players in, but we badly need it. And I dare say the contract situation with the likes of Shooter and things like that needs to be sorted as well, so we know what's going on. I mean, he's certainly not playing like a player that wants a contract, to put it that way. But no, I think the recruitment is going to be a big challenge for him come January. It'll be interesting to see how it goes about, and I just hope that the rumours about Thilwell picking the players and all this stuff and managers not having a say, I'm really hoping that's just not the case, because he's getting nothing to back that up at all.
Just on your number 10 point there, Nicholas is suggesting Moore, is he not a number 10? He's obviously improved.
He has come in and he has
played
played
more
well.
central.
He has come in and he has played well in the number 10. He certainly looked better central. However, I would argue the point and say that he is only just turned 18. Is he going to be able to do it from now to the end of the season? And he's another player on loan. He's going to be away in the summer. We need to look to try and build a squad here, and this is what we were saying earlier with the defence. How many of our defence are loans? How many of our defence are out of contracts? I mean, we've done a rebuild in the summer there, which is going to need a rebuild again. And fed up going into a summer with Rangers, we're needing to rebuild all the time. I would consist with Moore the now in the number 10 position. He's certainly done well since Rules came in, and I would hope they would continue with that. But in the long term, really, we need to look at nailing down someone for that position that's going to be our player moving forward, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So just before I come to Scotty on that question, I'm going to pop the final poll into you guys in the chat. Simply asking, what is the hardest job for Danny Röhl out of the things that we've discussed? So recruitment with Thirlwell, bringing through youth players, maintaining tradition, or maintaining relationship with fans. So I'll let you guys loose on that one, and I'll go over the results of all the polls at the very end just before we finish. So Scotty, what's your thoughts in terms of the key difficulties for a Rangers manager and in particular, obviously, Danny Röhl at his current time?
Before I get into it, Doug, I think it's worth putting a pin in this, that a manager's not getting a say in signings. You only need to look at the likes of Joe Rothwell and stuff that were brought in, Jaden Magoma, under Russell Martin. Russell Martin had a massive say in his signings that have came in. So this, that Thirlwell's picking the team and he's the one signing all the players and that, it's a load of utter nonsense to me. I don't believe that's the case at all. I think it's just
100%.
rumours based on
just
nothing.
angry. Just angry
Aye.
people.
Aye. It's rumours based on nothing, if you ask me. I think recruitment is key in January, don't get me wrong. I think we will show a more sort of variation, but it still doesn't mean we're going to get it right. You know what I mean? It's the track record so far has not been great. We just need to wait and see how it all kind of pans out in January. I'm just looking at the comments here. Magoma has been half decent. He's been fit. He's been a fairly decent enough signing, but I don't know is any better than Jeffy. probably just a wee bit, but I wouldn't say there's a massive gap there between Magoma's value and Jeff Day's value where we signed him, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what I'm getting at. I think we need to sign some proven quality. Everybody thought Majowski was going to be that proven quality, but Majowski's not getting the service because we've not got a style of play in place yet. That will come. We're doing a lot of work Arthur Ball just now. That's coming on leaps and bounds. We just need to be patient. I'm sorry to say it. We're Rangers fans. We're not patient at all, but it will come. In terms of youth, give Finlay Curtis alone. Finlay Curtis has got a half-decent chance of making it. If you're not going to play him, and I'm Danny Rowe, put him out on loan. You know, because we've chosen to develop a Tottenham youngster over Finlay Curtis. And I don't care what anybody says, I don't believe that Mike Moores' output at the end of the season would be any better than Finlay Curtis if he'd played the same amount of games. I think Finlay Curtis is a goal-scoring wide player. Cut inside, he's a very modern type player. He's got the quality to back it up. But instead of doing what we've done to Bailey Rice and just letting him rot, send him out on loan and get him some games somewhere, whether it's Raith Rovers or whether it's anywhere else like that, then just do it. Just send the boy out and get him game time for his own sake as well as Rangers. So that's where I'm sitting at. I think the priorities for Danny Rowe in this job is just to keep winning. If he keeps winning, we'll be happy. Everything's kind of going to die down. The way Danny Rowe's behaving is going to bring us all back together again. You can see it all beginning to slowly knit together, but it's going to take time. It's going to take time for us to, in a cup, if Thelwell and his boy and whoever else is doing the signings can pull in a couple of decent, solid signings in January, then I think we'll be all right. You know, there's still quality there. There's a guy called, there's Ant-Man out there in the right wing. He gets 17 assists in the Dutch League last season. We've got a 6'4", £8 million striker. Experience tells me if you get a ball to Ant-Man and tell him to stick it in Sharmiti's head, you might score every now and again. Fitba's not hard. Do you know what I mean? Ant-Man can whip a ball in. I do believe there's a player in there too. I think the wingers that have been signed have been okay. But there's a lot of work needing done. Danny Rowe just needs to keep doing what he's doing just now, taking it a game at a time, tick him off as they come, and everything will just start slowly knitting together again. But massive thing for me is he's had his first experience now at an Old Firm Cup semi-final now. We need to see him learning for our previous managers that come on, didn't he? Kept doing the same thing. Beale, same thing. Nobody ever learned how to tweak it to close the gap. I don't believe there's ever been that big a gap. Nobody ever showed how we can tweak it and learn the previous defeats and show that you can go on to get a better outcome next time. That's a challenge for him within the job. I thought we'd done all right in the Cup semi-final considering we had 10 men, but first thing you learn is talk to your players and keep 11 players in the park. I get your point, mate. We've done a whole podcast on the referees in Scotland. Head on over and check it out. I'm not sitting here like a pure happy clapper. And we never let the refs. I even get a referee on. So go and check it out for us. But I think there's... I was watching on our pod earlier on, Doug, and they were talking about Sharmiti, and what the boys says on it was that what's Sharmiti going to be like after a run of games? What would it be like? Now, I remember Lundstrom coming into a club and eventually he got a run of games under Gio, and he was pivotal that season in getting us to Seville. So I'm not judging anybody yet. I'll judge them after we've had a right good look at them and seen how Danny Rowe progresses. But yeah, short-term to medium-term goals, if you're Danny Rowe, just win. Fixture list is okay. Just win. You've shown you can go to Easter Road and win. That's a good start. Got Hearts coming up on the 21st of December now. That was a fixture change. Believe we can go and beat Emmett Tynecastle under Danny Rowe. I'm a lot more comfortable and confident now that we've got the right man in charge.
Absolutely. I can see some of the guys nodding along with you there as well. Hit the nail on the head. The easy part is win football matches, and then there's all the other enjoyment and excitement and fun that comes along with being Rangers manager that we've touched on tonight. So I'll take a opportunity to say a big thank you to all three of the guys who've engaged in the conversation tonight. Say we've had a lot of really interesting points, and there's been loads of good comments in the chat as well. In terms of your votes and what you have gone for when you were tasked with withholding tradition versus becoming a more modern football club, it was an overwhelming 92% voted for tradition. I know, obviously, in real life there's a blend to be had, but as I say, I want to take out the easy answers. Sacrificing a title to bring through quality youth players was 63% no. Reflection there, I think, really ultimately end of the day, it is all about winning. That was a highly voted one as well. Spend big on proven players or always look for bargains to grow was a bit closer at 60-40, 60% looking for proven, spending money on proven players, proven being the key, I think, there. I don't think we would mind so much spending 8 million if it was on someone that had scored 40 goals the season before and came in with a great reputation. In terms of showing emotion, again, a pretty overwhelming one, 86%. Quite happy for players to show their emotions on the pitch. And then finally, what is Danny Rowe's hardest job? Overwhelmingly, 92% agreed with the guys on the panel and said recruitment alongside Thelwell will be his biggest challenge. And then 8% went with bringing through youth players, and nobody said either of the other two. So that's the outcome of our sort of pod tonight. Recruitment is the biggest challenge for the Rangers manager, and I think that's a fair outcome. I'm sure all the guys would be happy with that one. We've recruited some great players in our history. Can we do so again? We certainly would like to think so. It's a big challenge for the group as they will be coming into the January window with holes to plug. We've touched on left back, a number of pods. Desperately need a striker that we can rely on, and still after all these years probably looking for a bit more creativity as well, so hopefully we will find that. Just want to say thanks to our sponsors, the Bluebells Bar at Port of the Carmen in Lanzarote. If you ever find yourself in that neck of the woods on holiday, do pop in and mention the Journal, and they'll be glad to see you, and I'm sure you'll have a great time. Just a thank you from me for tuning in and putting all your comments, everything in the chat, and engaging with all the polls. As always, you guys are great and produce great content alongside us. Thanks, Marty, for joining us this evening. And thank you to Alan.
No problem, mate. Enjoyed it. Cheers.
And finally, the boss. Thanks for joining us.
No bother, Doug. Thanks for having me on, lads.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in and keep watching through the rest of the week. We've got more content as always. If you're not subscribed already and you have been watching, do hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, which will let you know every time we go live, which is 5 to 7 nights a week at the moment, with plenty of Rangers content both before and after matches, tactics talks, pre-shows and all of the like. So do subscribe. It costs nothing. If you do fancy, you can take that extra step and become a member of the channel for just 99 pence a month as well. We're pumping out lots of extra members content right now. You can notice them. They are the ones with the sort of the red thumbnails as opposed to the blue ones, so keep an eye out for those, as that's extra exciting content for you. The next one will be on Friday, hosted by myself actually. What we're going to talk about, I don't know yet, but I will have that figured out for you come Friday. So if you are a member, do join us then. So just lastly leads me to say the final word of the show. Just remember, every night is a Rangers Journal night. Thanks, guys.
Every night is the Rangers Journal night.